Chapter 5 Will Meets Davy Jones. The pirates left Teodalma's house and sailed the Black Pearl to an island. They came to a ship that lay on its side in shallow water. Jack and Gibbs stood under an oil light and looked silently at the old, broken ship. "Is that the Flying Dutchman?" Will asked. "She doesn't look very good." "What's your plan?" Jack asked. "I'll search the ship until I find your key," Will said. "And if you find sailors on the ship?" Jack asked him. "I'll kill them." Jack smiled. "I like your plan. It's simple and easy to remember." "I'll bring you the key, and you'll give me the compass," Will said. "Yes," Jack agreed. "If anyone catches you, use these words. 'Jack Sparrow sent me. He wants me to pay you.'" Then he added, "It will save your life." Will said goodbye and climbed into a rowing boat. Jack watched silently. Then he ordered Gibbs to turn out the Black Pearl's lights. Soon, only Captain Jack Sparrow's gold-toothed smile shone in the dark. Will reached the broken old ship and lit a small oil light. Was the ship empty? He saw the bodies of many dead seamen and felt very nervous. "What happened here?" he asked himself. Suddenly, he heard a noise. Will turned and saw a sailor. He was badly hurt, but he was trying to pull up a sail. "Sailor, it's no good," Will said. "The water is too shallow. Your ship won't move." But the man kept trying. "No, below us. The ocean took Billy and Quentin. Captain's orders." The ship shook, and a dead sailor dropped from the mast. Will saw round, red marks on the man's back. He turned the body over. The man's face was gone. "Something has eaten him," Will thought. "The Kraken." He remembered Gibbs's description of the monster. Will moved away from the body. Suddenly, the ocean was very calm. Then, very quickly, the wind came and the water turned white and stormy. Will saw a great ship come up from the bottom of the ocean. It was the Flying Dutchman. "Jack tricked me," Will thought. "He sent me to this old ship. He knew that Davy Jones would follow me." The real Flying Dutchman was made of pale wood and bones. Animals and plants from the ocean floor covered every inch of it. The Dutchman's sailors climbed onto the old ship. Will pulled out his sword and ran toward his rowing boat. Macus, one of the Dutchman's sailors, stopped him. The other sailors joined Macus and stood around Will. Will quickly pushed his sword into his oil light. Burning oil covered the sword, and Will attacked the sailors. He fought hard, but suddenly something hit him in the face. As he fell, the Dutchman's sailors moved toward him. When he woke up, Will was still on the old ship. He was at the end of a line of sailors, all on their knees. Someone walked slowly toward them. It was Davy Jones. Jones was very ugly, with blue eyes and a long beard. His left hand and one of his legs were missing. He looked angrily down at the line of sailors in front of him. "6 men are still alive," Macus said. Jones walked down the line. "Do you fear death?" he asked a sailor. "I can offer you an escape." "Don't listen to him," said another man in the line. He held a cross in his hand. Jones turned and shouted at the second man, "Don't you fear death?" "No, sir." "Good luck, friend," Jones said. He smiled, then turned to Greenbeard. Greenbeard threw the man into the ocean. Jones moved close to the first sailor. "Life is painful, but you fear death. You can join my ship and escape it. You must spend 100 years on the Flying Dutchman. Will you come with me?" The sailor said quickly, "I will come with you." Jones smiled and moved down the line. He stopped next to Will. "You are neither dead nor dying. Why are you here?" "Jack Sparrow sent me," Will replied. "He wants me to pay you." Jones looked very angry. "Does he? Shall I accept that offer?" He turned his head and looked out across the dark ocean. Hiding in darkness on the Black Pearl, Jack Sparrow watched the Flying Dutchman. Jones was looking straight at him. Then Davy Jones suddenly arrived in front of him. The Dutchman's sailors also flew onto the Pearl and quickly circled round Jack and his pirates. "It's time to pay me," Jones said to Jack. His voice was low and angry. "I made you captain of the Black Pearl for 13 years. Now I want your soul." "Well," Jack said, "I was only captain for 2 years, then my men stole the ship." "But you were a captain," Jones replied. "You introduce yourself as Captain Jack Sparrow." "I've already paid you. I've sent you a soul to work on your ship." "He's over there," Jack said. He was talking about Will. "You can't send another soul," Jones shouted. "One soul is not the same as another." "So, how many souls do you want for mine?" Jack asked. Jones thought about Jack's question. Finally he said, 100 souls, in 3 days. Jack gave Jones a big smile. "Thanks, friend. Send the boy back to me. I'll start looking for those souls." "I'll keep the boy. You must find 99 more." 99? Jack asked, seeming surprised. "Have you met Will Turner? He's a good and brave man. His soul is as good as 4 ordinary souls." "I'll keep the boy," Jones repeated. "Bring me 99 more souls in 3 days. Do you accept this offer?" Jack thought about the question. "Yes," he answered. "This Will Turner is a good man, and he's your friend. Do you want him to stay with me for the rest of his life?" Jones asked. "Yes, that's okay," Jack answered and smiled. He looked down at his hand. The black mark was gone. When he looked up, Davy Jones and his sailors were gone too. Minutes later, the Flying Dutchman and Will sailed away into a storm. Jack watched silently as the ship disappeared. "I have 3 days to find 99 souls. There's only one place to go. Tortuga," he thought. Chapter 6. Captain Sparrow Sails Again. Jack sat in a corner of a crowded bar in Tortuga. His feet were on a table, and his compass was in his hand. Gibbs was finding Jack's 99 souls. He promised an exciting life on the Black Pearl to a line of hopeful sailors. Because they were in Tortuga, every man was old and sick. "I have 1 arm and a bad leg," an old sailor told Gibbs. "We can use you," Gibbs replied. After a few more interviews, he walked over to Jack. "How many?" Jack asked, looking up. "With those 4?" Gibbs said unhappily. "We have 4. Gibbs was worried. "I don't want anything to happen to me," he added quickly. "I'm not making any promises," Jack said. He didn't like promises. "Make a new plan, Jack, and don't use that compass. We all know that it hasn't worked for a long time." Jack looked angrily at Gibbs. "What's your story?" Gibbs asked the next sailor. The man was drunk and unshaven, but his eyes were clear. "My story?" the man replied. "It's the same as your story. I wanted to catch a well-known pirate. I followed him across the 7 oceans. I lost my ship, my job, my life." Gibbs looked more closely at the man. "Commodore?" he asked. Was this really Commodore Norrington, the man who followed Jack and the Pearl to Isla de Muerta? "I'm not a Commodore now," Norrington answered. He threw his bottle down onto the table. "So, can I join your ship?" Gibbs was too surprised to answer. The silence made Norrington angry. "So, can I work for Captain Jack Sparrow?" he shouted. Then he turned to Jack and pulled out his gun. "Or shall I kill you now?" On his way out of the door, Jack stopped and smiled quickly. "You can join us, friend." Norrington didn't put his gun down. "Sorry," he said, "but I really want to shoot you." "Calm down, soldier," a man said and held Norrington's arm. "That's our captain." Norrington's gunshot just missed the man. Jack's new sailors jumped up and started to fight. Other pirates joined the fight. Chairs fell to the floor and bottles were broken. "We'll leave now," Jack said quietly to Gibbs. He walked carefully through the fight, unhurt. He picked up a hat from the floor and put it on his head. It was too small. "It's hard to find a good hat these days," he said to himself. He and Gibbs walked quietly away. Norrington had a sword in his hand now. "Fight then! You! He shouted drunkenly. Then someone hit him over the head with a bottle, and he fell to the floor. Elizabeth stood over him, dressed in her sailor's clothes. "I just wanted to hit him," she shouted to the pirates. "Now throw him out of the bar and we'll have a drink." Then, as the pirates shouted their agreement, she looked carefully at the man on the floor. "I don't believe it," she said quietly. "James Norrington, what has the world done to you?" She helped him to his feet, and they walked slowly toward the port. Suddenly, they were standing in front of Jack. "Captain Sparrow?" Elizabeth said to him. Jack looked at her, but didn't know her in her sailor's clothes. "Do you want to join my ship, boy?" he said. "Welcome." "I want to find the man I love," Elizabeth replied. "William Turner." "Elizabeth?" Jack said, looking at her carefully. "You don't look good in those clothes, you know." "Jack," Elizabeth said, "I know that Will followed you. Where is he?" "Oh, I'm really sorry, but Will has joined Davy Jones's ship." "Davy Jones?" Elizabeth repeated. "Oh, please," Norrington laughed. "The captain of the Flying Dutchman, a ship that takes dead men from this world to the next?" "Correct," Jack said. He looked closely at Norrington. "I know you. Commodore, you look terrible, friend. Why are you here?" "I joined your ship," Norrington replied. "Jack," Elizabeth said, "I want to find Will." Jack pulled his black beard. "Are you sure?" he asked. "Is that what you really want?" "Of course," Elizabeth answered. "Do you know how I can save him?" "Well," Jack began slowly, "there is a chest of unknown size. Jones will do anything to keep that chest. The chest can save Will." Jack placed the compass in her hand. "With this compass will point to the thing that you want most in this world." "Jack, is the story about the chest true?" Elizabeth asked. "Every word is true, love. You want to find Davy Jones's chest, don't you?" "I want to save Will," Elizabeth agreed. Jack opened the compass in her hand and looked at it. He turned to Gibbs. "We go that way," he shouted, and pointed toward the ocean. Chapter 7. A Very Important Game. Davy Jones sat on the Flying Dutchman. He was playing slow, sad music on a piano. His eyes filled with tears as he looked up at a picture of a woman with long, thick hair. The sailors and Will Turner were working hard. Will was pulling a chain when suddenly he dropped it. "Careless!" one of the sailors shouted. "I'll punish you for that mistake." He started to hit Will, but Bootstrap Bill stopped him. "I'll punish you too," the sailor told him angrily. "That's all right," Bootstrap told him. "You can punish me." "Why?" Davy Jones asked. He stopped playing the piano and watched the men carefully. Bootstrap lifted his hand and pointed at Will. "My son, that's my son." Will's eyes widened. The old pirate was his father? Jones smiled. "This is very interesting," he said. "Do you want to stop this sailor punishing your son?" "Yes," Bootstrap answered. "Then you can punish him yourself. Hit him." "I can't hit my own son," Bootstrap Bill said. "Then another sailor will punish him." "No," Bootstrap shouted quickly. He lifted his arm and started to hit Will. Later, Bootstrap explained his actions to his son. "That sailor is a hard man. I didn't want him to hurt you." "So you saved me," Will said thoughtfully. Bootstrap shook his head sadly. "I can't save you from the Dutchman," he said. "You made a promise to Davy Jones. Now you can't leave his ship. Your body will become part of it. Look at old Wyvern." Bootstrap pointed at the side of the ship. An old man hung there. He seemed to be part of the ship. "But I didn't make any promises to Davy Jones," Will said. Bootstrap looked happier. "Then you must escape." "Not until I find this key," Will said. He showed his father the picture of the key. "It's on the ship, and Jack Sparrow wants it. Maybe it will save us." Suddenly, old Wyvern moved and pulled himself free from the side of the ship. "The dead man's chest!" he cried. His arms reached for the cloth. Will jumped back, afraid. "This is what happens to Davy Jones's men," he said to himself. "Soon my father will become part of the Dutchman too. Just one more unhappy soul." But Wyvern's next words made Will more hopeful. "Open the chest with the key, and cut through the heart with your sword," old Wyvern cried. Then he changed his mind. "Don't destroy the heart. The Dutchman must have a living heart, or there is no captain. And if there is no captain, no one will hold the key." "The captain has the key?" Will asked. "Hidden," Wyvern said. He disappeared again into the side of the ship. But Will had his answer. Jones had the key. On the Black Pearl, Jack Sparrow found Elizabeth filling in names on Lord Becket's letters. These letters would free Jack from the English. Jack immediately took them from her. "These letters belong to me, don't they?" He looked at the signature on the papers. "Lord Cutler Beckett. Is he the man who wants my compass?" "Not the compass. A chest," Elizabeth said. Gibbs heard her words and looked up. "A chest? Not Davy Jones's chest. If Beckett has the chest, the oceans will be his." "So that's why Beckett wants it," Elizabeth thought. Jack looked carefully at the letters. "Beckett will free me, and I can work for the English," he laughed. "I can't think of anything worse." He shook his head and put the letters in his jacket pocket. "Jack," Elizabeth said, "give the letters back to me." Jack looked at her. "Take them from me," he said, smiling. Elizabeth turned away from the pirate. Norrington was standing near them, listening. As Elizabeth passed, he stopped her. "Ask yourself a question," he said. "Who sent Will onto the Flying Dutchman?" On the Dutchman, some of the sailors were playing a numbers game. Will watched the game and tried to understand it. "What are they playing for?" Will asked Bootstrap. The old sailor was standing behind his son. "The only thing any of us can offer," Bootstrap told him. "Years of service on this ship." "Can anyone play?" Will asked his father slowly. "Yes," Bootstrap replied. "Then I want to play with Davy Jones," Will said loudly. The sailors went silent. Suddenly, Jones stood in front of them. "I accept," he told Will. "But I'll only play for the thing that is most important to a man's heart." "I'll offer 100 years of service on your ship," was Will's reply. "No," Bootstrap cried. "And I'll free you if you win," Jones said. "I'm already free," Will thought. He didn't know about Jack's trick. "No, I want you to free my father," he said. "I agree," Jones answered. He sat down opposite Will. "You're a crazy young man," Jones said. "You want to get married, and you will get married, to this ship." They began to play. Will won the first game. His father was free, but Will wanted more. "Another game," he said suddenly, to the surprise of the sailors. "You can't win again, son," Jones said, and stood up. Will smiled. "Then why are you walking away?" he asked. Jones looked very angry. "What will you play for?" he asked, and sat down again. "My soul," Will answered. "If I lose, I'll work for you until the end of time." "And if you win?" Jones asked. "I want the thing that is dearest to your heart," Will said. "I want this." He showed Jones the cloth with the picture of the key. Jones lifted his head. "How do you know about the key?" he asked sharply. "I don't have to tell you. That's not part of the game, is it?" Will asked. Jones reached into his shirt and pulled out the key. It hung on a chain around his neck. "Now I know where it's hidden," Will thought. Bootstrap stepped between them. "I want to play," he said. "If I lose, you can have my soul too. If I win, I get the key." "Don't do this," Will said. His father was now free. Will didn't want him to lose and be a prisoner on the Dutchman again. But Bootstrap didn't listen to him, and the three men began to play. Very quickly, Bootstrap lost the game. Jones put the key back inside his shirt. "Bootstrap Bill, you will stay on this ship in my service until the end of time." "William Turner, you are free to leave at the next port." Jones laughed and moved away. Will was very angry. "Why did you do that?" he asked his father. Bootstrap dropped his tired head. "I didn't want you to lose," he said sadly. "The game was never about winning or losing," Will said. Bootstrap looked at him and then suddenly understood. "The game was about finding the key," he said slowly. "And now you know where it is." Chapter 8. The Kraken. Later that night, Bootstrap was on guard when he saw the sails of another ship, the Edinburgh Trader. He pointed to the ship. "Now you can escape," he said to Will. "Yes," Will replied. "But first I want to get the key." He moved toward the captain's room and quietly went inside. Jones was asleep. Will took a step closer. Pushing away Jones's beard, he reached for the key. Quickly, he pulled it off its chain. Will left the room and ran back to Bootstrap. "Is the ship still there?" he asked. His eyes searched the ocean for the Edinburgh Trader. "Yes," Bootstrap said. "I've prepared a rowing boat for you, but you must hurry." Will was very sad to leave his father. "Come with me," he said, as he climbed over the side of the Dutchman. "I'm part of the ship now, Will. I can't leave." "Take this," Bootstrap said. He gave Will a black knife from his belt. "I always wanted to give this to you." Will smiled. "I'll free you from this prison, I promise you." Will jumped into the boat and disappeared on the dark water. The next morning, a large sailor arrived to take Bootstrap's place. The old pirate was asleep, and the sailor kicked him hard. "Move before the captain sees you." Suddenly, the sailor saw the white sails of the Edinburgh Trader. "Quickly!" he shouted. "There's a ship near us!" Davy Jones came out and looked at the ocean. "Who guarded the ship last night?" he asked angrily. The sailors pushed Bootstrap forward. "Didn't you notice that ship?" the captain said. "Sorry, Captain. I fell asleep. It won't happen again," Bootstrap promised. "Bring his son to me," Jones ordered. "He's not on the ship, sir," a sailor said, "and one of the rowing boats is missing." Jones immediately understood. He looked at Bootstrap, and the pirate's face went pale with fear. Jones thought for a minute, and then pulled the chain from under his shirt. The key was gone. "Only one person could plan to steal my key. Jack Sparrow," he shouted. "Captain Jack Sparrow!" In the captain's room of the Edinburgh Trader, Will was trying to get warm. "It's strange to find a rowing boat in the middle of the ocean," Captain Bellamy said. "Just sail the ship away quickly," Will replied. "You have to hurry." A sailor suddenly ran into the room. "Captain, we've seen a ship." "What colour are her sails?" Bellamy asked. "She's not using her sails, sir," the sailor replied. "Pirates," Bellamy said. Will ran out of the room and climbed the mast. "It's the Dutchman," he shouted. "We're all going to die." The Edinburgh Trader stopped moving. "What happened?" one of the sailors asked. "We've hit something," another sailor answered. Captain Bellamy looked into the ocean, but could see nothing. "Move the ship's wheel left, then right, then left again," he ordered. The sailors followed his orders without success, then turned back to their captain. "What can we do now?" one of them asked. But Bellamy wasn't there. The sailors looked out toward the ocean. A large monster was holding the captain in its hand. It lifted Bellamy high into the air and then pulled him down into the water. "Kraken!" the sailors shouted. The Kraken killed the captain, then came back for the ship. It broke the ship into 2 pieces and pulled it down into the ocean. A few minutes later, 6 men were on their knees on the Flying Dutchman. "Where is the sun?" Jones asked, looking closely at the line of sailors. "And where is the key?" "We can't find them," Macus answered. "Maybe the ocean took him." "I am the ocean," Jones shouted angrily. "Throw these men off the ship." His men threw the sailors from the Edinburgh trader into the water. "The chest isn't safe," Jones said. "Bootstrap's son has the key, and he's working with Jack Sparrow. We're going to Ila Cruz." "He won't find the chest," a sailor said. "He knew about the key, didn't he?" Jones shouted. "He mustn't find the heart. I must reach Ila Cruz before Will or Jack arrives." Below the Dutchman, holding onto the side of the ship, Will heard Jones's words. "Now I know where the chest is hidden," he said to himself. "The Dutchman will take me there, and the key is in my pocket." Jack was going toward the same island on the Black Pearl. His compass in Elizabeth's hand was now working again, but Elizabeth didn't seem to be very happy. "Elizabeth, are you okay?" Jack asked. "I understand women. I know that something is troubling you." "I wanted to be married by now," Elizabeth said sadly. She moved away, but Jack followed her. "You know, I'm a ship's captain. I can marry you here and now." "No, thank you," Elizabeth said. She wanted to marry Will, not Jack. "Why not?" he asked her, smiling. "You know that you and I are very similar." "I'm more honest than you," Elizabeth said, "and I know the difference between right and wrong. And I'm cleaner." Jack looked at himself. "That's not important," he said quickly. "You'll soon be like me." "Do you think so?" "Yes," Jack said. "You want to be free and selfish. You want to know what that's like. One day," he said, looking into her eyes, "you'll be exactly like me." Elizabeth looked at him coldly. "You and I are similar," she agreed. "So one day you'll be like me. You'll do the right thing. You'll be brave. And then you'll discover a very important fact." Jack looked at her questioningly. "You'll discover that you are a good man," Elizabeth told him finally. "I've never done anything good," Jack said. "I believe that you will. Do you know why? You're going to want to be good." Jack opened his mouth to answer her. A sailor's voice stopped him. "Land!" Jack ran to the side of the ship. He could see the small island of Ila Cruz far across the ocean. He looked down into the water. "The island is too far from here," he said, afraid. "I want